Before we get to Matt Ryan's quarterback of the week, we got to start with his former team, the Atlanta Falcons, and what the heck is going on with Kirk Cousins. This past weekend against the Los Angeles Chargers, he goes 24 of 39, 245 yards, and 4 picks, including a disastrous pick 6. The last 3 games, 0 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. We kind of brushed on the topic last week saying there's whispers about going to Michael Penix. Those whispers are growing a little bit louder now. What the heck is going on, Matt, with Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tough sledding. Appreciate the graphic right here, too. We'll go back to 2012 when I had 0 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions, I believe, in that game. But we won, which is all good. Yeah, it's been tough sledding. It's been tough sledding. And we did. We talked about it last week and saying, you know what, it's still a couple of weeks away, in my opinion. But if the performances continue like this, I think yesterday kind of accelerated that process. The thing I'll say is it's just poor decision making. That's the part, I think, with the veteran player where it's head scratching. It's not like you're forcing some in. There's games, depending on how they're shaking out, where you're trying to throw the football down the field. You're trying to force things in there. Pick 6, I don't know if it was miscommunication on the route, expecting him to come back in. Regardless, it's just you can't throw the ball soft to the sideline and expect good things to happen, right? Those balls have to be firm, and that's kind of been a trend, at least from what I've seen with Kirk, is not enough pace on the ball to the sideline. But really the toughest interception of the day, and really, in my opinion, what cost them the game was the turnover on the goal line, right? They're down, whatever it is, inside the 5-yard line, and he's scrambling around and throws it into 3 guys. When you clearly need to throw the football away, right? Or dump it down. I think Bijan Robinson was right in front of him. Dump it down, throw the football away. Either way, we're leaving there with 3 points, and that changes everything at the end of that ball game, right? You're in a completely different situation. You're driving down there. I know Younghoe Koo missed a kick, but you're driving down there with faith that you're going to win that game with the field goal. So, it was tough. I don't think they should make a move this week, though. I really don't. I know everybody's talking about that. I think you're going against the Minnesota defense and everything that Brian Flores does. I think that's a tough place to put a rookie quarterback in there that has not played much ball this year. So I think they stick with Kirk Cousins. I think Raheem Morris has already said that, and I think that's probably the right decision.
I can't help but think when I watch Kirk Cousins that the field has shrunk for him, unfortunately, because the arm isn't there. It's the Achilles, the ability to push off that back leg. You've seen it, and he never had a big arm to begin with, but I think you've seen a notable decrease in, if you're just comparing him to the rest of quarterbacks in the NFL, he probably has the weakest arm of any starter, and you just see his inability to attack certain areas of the football field, and defenses know that now. I think defenses are really tuned into the fact that, hey, if we really want to force him to go outside the numbers or deep down the football field more, he's just going to be shaky in those regards, or he's going to put a lot more air on it and give us time to get there that we can really make things tighter and more difficult for him over the middle of the football field. And I think you've seen that of late, and it's just going to be difficult for the Falcons. And so when you compare him and Michael Penix to what he has, just the juice alone in that arm that Penix has, I mean, he can really put it out there. That's why he obviously got drafted in the top 10. So I agree. I'm not ready to make the move just yet. But one more week like this, and it's like, we tried. You had the 2 great games against the Bucs, but outside those 2 great games against the Bucs, he just has not been what was promised at the quarterback position in Atlanta. Let's go to another NFC South quarterback in Bryce Young. I think a couple weeks ago we said, hey, nice start back from the benching, but we're not ready to do anything or make any proclamations just yet. The past 2 weeks since then, back-to-back touchdown drives in the final 2 minutes of the game. Heartbreaking losses in both of them, but if you're just watching as an objective outside observer, you're saying this guy looks like and is playing like a franchise quarterback. What have you seen from him, Matt, over these past 2 games?
I agree with you. I think it's the best football he's played in this league. And it looks like the guy that we all saw at Alabama, right? The ability to move, layer the football down the field, throw with touch and anticipation, and be accurate. The touchdown at the end of Thielen was awesome, right? Just a really, really good play. So I love his movement. I love his throwing on the move. But the game changer for me has been the ability to deliver the football from the pocket and him being confident, right? It looks like a completely different guy, and I'm happy for him, right? Maybe this is exactly what he needed, right? We talk all the time, was was him going to the bench, was at the end of his career, was at the end of his time in Carolina. He gets another opportunity because of injury and comes back and is ready to go. So I give him a lot of credit for during that time on the bench, whatever it is, right? And I give Dave Canales credit too, of kind of working through some of these things. But he looks like a different player, and I think number one, you can see his confidence is back, right? There's a belief in what he's doing out there with how decisive he is, and you see him enjoying himself, right? Like I think that makes a big difference, right? You're out there, you've got a little bit of self-belief, you made a couple plays, you start to feel yourself a little bit, you start celebrating a little bit, and I think that's when he's at his best. So I think it's awesome for the Panthers. I know it's a tough loss. Really, the last couple of weeks have been tough losses for them to swallow against two good football teams. So I think it's a really, really good stretch here right now for Bryce Young.
Yeah, I don't think from the moment, after he walked across the stage, got drafted, holds the jersey, from then till like he got benched and then came back, obviously, I don't think I saw him crack a smile. His body language as a rookie was part of the reason why I was so discouraged by his rookie season. Like, he looked beaten down after things went bad. And then I watched this past weekend, and there was a play where it's an RPO. He pulls it. His wide receivers don't know it's an RPO. They didn't run any routes. He has to spike it. And he's smiling, pointing at his guy, being like, hey, so, like, we were on the same page. But it was just a vastly different reaction to a negative play than we saw from him early on in his career with the Carolina Panthers. And so it's really easy to buy into, hey, if we get him some real wide receivers, if we get him some guys that are some true number, ones and number twos in this league, that aren't like, the UDFAs, the journeymen that are now currently catching passes from, we might have something special here in Carolina with the way he's played. Last quarterback we want to hit before we get to the quarterback of the week, though, Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia Eagles. They keep winning. He keeps handing the ball off. 11 of 19 in this game in the win over the Ravens for only 118 yards with a passing touchdown. They have not called upon him. A big part of this winning streak has been they really have just stopped passing the football in a meaningful manner. They are a run-first team. They're using him and his legs, and that's cut down on his fumbles, cut down on his turnovers, and led to a more complimentary football team. But is that sustainable come playoff time? Is he going to have to drop back and throw? And do we trust him and this passing attack with Kellen Moore at the helm come playoff time, Matt?
I mean, TBD, right? To be determined if they're going to use it more or whatever. But let's go to yesterday's ball game. To jumpstart them to get back into that game in the second quarter, right? That first drive, Saquon, the first drive they scored on, Saquon converts on a 3rd and 4. Jalen Hurts has a big run after that, and then it's 2 RPOs later, and they're in the end zone, right? So it was the run game, then they got to the pass. They come out the very next drive, the big play action. That was the best pass of the night for him. He sells kind of wide zone left, finds A.J. Brown coming, crossing over the middle. That to me is where it's sustainable for them, right? You've got this run game rolling right now. If you can kind of increase some of that big play action, and he's comfortable throwing the football on those in cuts over the middle. You saw the void in the defense. They had this awesome, CBS had this awesome camera angle right behind kind of the high end zone vision right behind it. And you could see that hole open up in the middle of the defense. That's what a run game does for you. And so I think if he can grow in that play action part of kind of his growth and development as a young player, because he still is a young player, right? That growth and development in kind of turning your back to the defense, coming back, ripping some of those in cuts over the middle, I think that will be huge because his game really has been throwing on the outside, right? Throwing those go routes on the outside, throwing the unders on the outside, the stop routes on the outside. If they can develop into a team that can play action pass over the middle, I think that part of it is sustainable for them.
Yeah, it's almost malpractice that they haven't been. It's like you have such a dominant running attack that draws so many eyes to it that basically, and when you add Jalen Hurts, it's like they have to account for 2 guys in the backfield every single play to not just be picking apart that middle of the football field behind the linebackers, in front of the safeties. That area is almost malpractice, like I mentioned. And I do think that come playoff time, one, I don't trust many teams to stop this rushing attack. We just saw the Baltimore Ravens, top run defense in the NFL, get shredded. And 2, it's like you empty the tank come playoff time. You bring out all the best plays, and who has the best players still? It's like this Philadelphia Eagles team. You still got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the outside. They're still going to make plays. So while I don't necessarily trust Jalen Hurts, nearly as much as I trust probably the other quarterbacks in the NFC. I'm not sure it really matters. This team is a house.